Buongiorno, my name is Salvatore and I am the proprietor of Castello delle Serre. We're making this small video because we want to share with you in this terrible moment of crisis. We want to bring our country into your homes. We want to bring our Tuscany into your homes. We want to bring our home into your home. So as a way of sharing this, I want to take an opportunity to say a little something about the history of our beautiful castle. Castello delle Serre, an ancient castle. Imagine that there's a document written in sheepskin parchment which actually mentions this castle, and that document is dated 836 AD. An important castle with a great deal of history which I'm about to share with you. And in the next video, I'm going to share something even more important than the history of our home. I'm going to share with you the element of our home which has become the essence of the present moment, the essence of happiness. A star has come into our lives. Her name is Stella, and in the next video, you're going to have a chance to see her. We just saw the external portion of what the Romans called castrum. Castrum, as in fortress, as in the word castle, because this was built on top of this hilltop for defensive purposes. When we began our restoration, we started digging, and in digging, we discovered the inner portion of the outside that we saw. Now imagine inside here, so during the medieval ages, it was from this position where the guards were able to protect the fortress. This here would have been an opening through which a guard with a crossbow would have taken aim at any oncoming army that was coming from the small road below, which 1,000 years ago, as well as today, connected the independent city-state of Siena directly to our west. That road connected Siena with the independent city-state of Arezzo, which is directly to our east. That small road, 1,000 years ago, as well as today, crosses right through our town. So this fortress grew up as a mechanism of locking this passage, hence the name Serre, from the Latin word serrare. We just saw the position that a soldier would have maintained to safeguard the passage, which is down below. That was in the 9th century. The castle, of course, through the centuries evolved. As the feud grew around this fortress, the entire town developed, the serfdom came into being, and they needed to create a new set of defense walls. Along this new border around the feud, there were 3 towers. In front of us, we have one of the original towers. Imagine that this was completed in the year 1122. Now, the same opening from which a guard on the inside could look outward, here is to be found in the tower. From the outside, clearly the opening is small. The purpose for that is that any attacks from the exterior to the soldiers that were manning it on the inside, it would have been very, very difficult to aim and to get through that small opening. On the opposite side, on the interior, in the width of these walls, which are very, very, very thick, was that same opening that permitted a soldier with a crossbow to take aim at the crossroad below. To understand exactly how thick these walls are, imagine that I could almost open up my arms, and the entire spread of the length of my open arms is how thick these 3 outer walls were in the year 1122. Now, as we enter inside, we're going to see that opening from the outside, which was simply for defensive purposes. We're going to see what it looks like on the inside. Imagine that in 1122, these steps were not here, although these steps are original from the mid 1400s, at which point the second modification of the tower occurred, which I'll explain to you momentarily. But in 1122, this right here, the steps would not have been here. In the place of the steps, there would have been wooden planks, and lying on his belly, on the wooden planks, a soldier would have a beautiful bird's eye view of the road, which is directly below us. So the second modification of the tower occurred because at that point they decided to give a better use to this tower. Imagine it had been born as a defense tower. However, something to warfare had occurred, which occurred in the beginning of the 1400s, which was the introduction of dynamite cannons. Clearly, a tower made of stone could not withstand dynamite. So it lost its function as pure war machinery. It suddenly became a structure which could be used for living situations. So they did decide to give a specific use to this tower. In making that decision, they made those alterations. Those steps that we walked on are part of the use that they would give, the new use. So in this new use, they decided they were going to raise it one more story. To raise it one more story with the thickness of those walls, they had to be careful just how much more weight they were putting on the structure so as not to stress the foundations. Therefore, in raising the last floor, the upper floor, where we're going now, they decided to diminish the width, as is clearly evidenced looked by the stairs. If we look carefully, we find that each step has been positioned on half of the width of the original wall, with the other half being the new structure that was being put on top. We are now on the upper level. There is still one level above us, which is a beautiful terrace overlooking much of Tuscany. As I mentioned, this level was added in the mid 1400s. And it was added with the idea of giving it a practical use. You'll notice there are particularities in the walls. Notice that circular object there. We have a number. There's another circular object there. Still others, right here, right there. But imagine that this is only an inkling, an idea that our visitors who come and stay at this sumptuous suite, which is truly one of the most beautiful suites of Tuscany, just to remind them of the history of the place where they are, where they find themselves. I have here a picture, and this is a moment I want to share with you because it was one of the most emotional moments during the entire sense of discovery during the Restoration period. This picture shows what is behind these walls. So clearly, as you can see, those little objects that were embedded into the wall, as you notice, there are many of them. Actually, there is a total of 89 of them. I had initially thought of leaving them all, but then clearly you understand it would have been a bit difficult for the hygienic purposes, reasonings, dust would have collected in them. What are they? They are urns, vases, made of terracotta in the mid 1400s. What purpose did they serve? I'll tell you that in just a moment. As I was mentioning, one of the most emotional moments during the time of this restoration was the discovery of these urns in the wall. The timing was about a week or 2 weeks before Thanksgiving in the year 1996, because I had purchased the castle in 1995. Of course, at the time of purchase, the townspeople, everybody had told me, well, there's a treasure buried somewhere. Now, I had gotten into the habit of being here 1 month and returning back to my business and family in San Diego for 1 month. I would return and see the work that had been done and approve it. Most of the times I approved it, sometimes I disapproved it. Before leaving on that particular occasion to go back to celebrate Thanksgiving with my family, my son was with me, my son Antonio was with me. I decided that I need to make a decision regarding what we would do to the walls of this space. Because of course it was old, plaster, centuries, fallen apart, cracked, with layers of mildew, mold on it. So of course I had to make a decision, which was whether to bring back the walls to their natural state of stone and replaster them, or if I were to find that the walls contained, the bearing walls were made of beautiful whole stone that would have been very appealing, I would have chosen to remain it, to keep it as stone instead of plastering it. So I needed to make the discovery. So I came up here with a hammer and I started hammering away. When all of a sudden I noticed a piece of a circular ceramic, like a maiolica. I thought to myself, I wonder what this could be. I kept on chipping further, and before I knew it, I found almost a perfect circle, which of course had been sealed with mortar and stones. And my excitement, I yelled at the window. Antonio was down there because we had just made a major discovery down below. I said, Antonio, vieni, vieni. Of course, my son, what did he do? What now, Dad? I said, vieni per favore. What do you need? Can't you see I'm busy? In English, then I replied to him because he had workmen with him and I didn't want them to know. I said, just shut your mouth and get your butt up here. When he came here, he looked at me, my state of excitement. He said, what is it, Dad? I said, look, it's unbelievable. There's got to be a treasure in here. This is the famous hidden treasure they're talking about. Help me, help me. He goes, oh my God, Dad, I think you're right. So with the pick, with the hammer, and the chisel, I'm trying to take away this, what I think is blocking the jewels or the ancient monies that are in this vase and urn. I'm sweating because I have a winter coat because it's the end of November, it's getting cold. And I take away, and I say, my God, it's unbelievable. How come they put so much? When we finally got to the heart of it, we realized that there was nothing there. It was just mortar and stones. This urn had been filled up with mortar and stones. The disappointment at which my son says, okay, well, Dad, that's okay. Hey, I'm going to tell this story to my children because this is unbelievable. Even though we didn't find the treasure, it was still exciting. So he goes back to his work. I continue, and I get like 12 inches away from that urn, and guess what? I see another circular formation. Now, a normal human being would have thought, but not me. I guess I wanted a treasure so badly. Guess what? At that point, my mind registered, oh my God, this was like a treasure map. They put that one there just so that I would find the real treasure. So here I am yelling for Antonio to come back. He runs up here and my insistence, because of course he didn't want to take all these steps to climb up here again. He comes in and says, look, I told you, see, that must have been just an indication leading to it. Here we are. Well, guess what? Same thing happened. Total disappointment. We did not find the treasure. But in the end, we found 89 of those magnificent urns. And you know why they are here? Because when they raised this tower one more level, they did not put a ceiling to this room. It was open to the skies, and those urns had a function. It was a source of procuring food for the castle owner, because in those urns would fly pigeons, doves, quails, and lay their eggs. And guess what? Those eggs would hatch. Newborn little pigeons taste pretty good on the skewer over a wonderful fire by the castle.